everyone, welcome back to my wine diary. It feels so good to be back. I took a very long break from YouTube and it feels really nice to be back to filming videos here. If you're curious where I went and where I was for the past 10 months almost, you can go and follow me on Instagram. I will link my page down below. I actually had a major super exciting life event that happened to me, but you can learn all of that and find out what happened to me from my Instagram. But I'm glad to be back. Like I said, this is the third time I'm saying it, so let's jump right into today's video. From the thumbnail and the title of this video, you should already know that I'm filming a review of a specific winery and brand today called Gancia Wines. Gancia is an Italian winemaker that invited me to their virtual wine tasting yesterday. That event was a big success, and by this variety of wines next to me having stoppers on them, you can already tell I've had those wines, I've tasted them. And it's because I liked these wines so much that I wanted to share them with you and tell you a little bit more about Gancia, because they actually go back in history quite a bit. So very interesting company, very delicious wines. So let's go ahead and review all of them together with Gancia's history. Gancia Wines were kind enough to send me 3 boxes of goodies, and I'm super grateful for that. So the first box had wines in them. I have 4 wines here. I have a Prosecco Brut, a Prosecco Rose, a Pinot Grigio, and a Chianti. So as I'm going to start with this Prosecco Brut, I'll tell you a little bit more about the company and then also the rest of the things that they've sent to me. So the wine stoppers actually have Gancia's insignia on them. And I also have some glasses that they sent me as well. So that was very nice of them. So the peculiar part about the prep for the virtual wine tasting that they did was the box with food pairings. Now, of course, they didn't send anything super perishable like cheeses and meats and whatever, but they did send some snacks that I'm going to pair with 4 of these wines. And I have all of the snacks here. So here we have some just salted chips, we have some pretzels, we have these crostinis with Parmesan on them, and then I also have a tiny bit of beef jerky here. Beef jerky is a little bit awkward for me to try wine with, simply because I actually don't eat red meat. So this one was a bit of a obstacle for me to overcome, but I still had a little bit just to try with their wine as well. So you will see me munching on those snacks as well. So let's have some of this Prosecco Brut and talk about Gancia. So first of all, what really amazed me is that Gancia goes back to 1850 is when the brand was originated in Piedmont in Italy. So they have over 170 years of winemaking expertise. They now distribute their wines to over 70 countries, which is pretty impressive if you ask me. And I'll put some more slides on the screen so you can read a little bit more about the history of Gancia if you want to just pause the screen and read a little bit more about this. But all of their wines are award-winning. And the cool thing is that they don't only produce sparkling wine and still wines, which sparkling wine is what they started with, by the way, way back in 1850. But they also do some liqueurs, so they really have a wide range of alcoholic beverages that they make. But as I said, they started with sparkling wines, and this Prosecco Brut is absolutely bone dry, just the way I like it. So I wanted to talk about this one first. Now, you know how much I like swirling the wine in front of my camera, so I'm going to do this for you as well. And here, you guys, I really hope that the camera kind of shows you the color, but the color is the straw yellow color with a bit of a greenish undertone to it. So it's a really nice expected color from Prosecco, if you will. And let's go ahead and smell it. So here, this Prosecco Brut smells very crisp, very fresh. Green apple hits me on the nose immediately. And I really love all of these qualities about Proseccos. It's just that crisp, fresh, very dry taste to them. That's why Proseccos are some of my favorites. This Prosecco here has a DOC certification to it. If you guys are not familiar with DOC and DOCG certifications, for Italian wines and sparkling wines, please look into it. I also have a video on Chianti specifically where I go a little bit more in depth about that certification, but check this one out. All of the wines from Gancia are DOC certified, and some of them are DOCG certified, like this Chianti here that I'm going to be talking about in a second. But let's go back to this Prosecco here. So this one, like I said, aroma is very fresh and fruity. It's really, it's giving me that green apple scent, maybe a little bit of citrus to it as well. So some orange and lemon as well. Let's go ahead and taste it now. Now that I got a mouthful, I can really feel all the aromas on my palate as well. So extremely crisp, extremely fresh. Really, really liking it. I wanted to take a look at the color just one more time here against my white background. Nice. So it definitely has a fruity finish when it comes to the palate as well. I would say that it's a medium body, and I would like to taste it with their recommendation according to what they sent to us, which is just a little salted chip here. Let's give it a swirl, and we'll sip some more. I personally really, really like chips with Proseccos and Cavas and any sparkling wines, even champagne. Something as simple as chips or even French fries, something really, really salty, a little bit greasy, goes perfectly with any sparkling wines, especially the drier ones, just because the acidity in these wines really help cutting that fattiness and some saturated fats in those bad snacks. So this one is a really, really good Prosecco. Truly enjoyed it. I'm going to take another sip and go back to Gancia history. The next one that we're going to taste is this Prosecco Rose. And before I even pour some wine into my glass, take a look at this bottle. This bottle is probably the most gorgeous Gancia bottle that I've seen so far from their website. I really, really like the ridges on it. It's one of their higher priced ones as well, but still very affordable. I think this one ranges at about $25, $26 per bottle here in the US. But this bottle is just absolutely gorgeous. I immediately think of a gift for someone when I hold this bottle. This would be a great gift. I also wanted to point out Gancia's company motto right here. If you can read it, it says "Drink Beauty." And when I hear "Drink Beauty" and I see this bottle, it just ties together very, very well for me. So yeah, drink beauty indeed. So pouring a little bit of this rosé here in a glass now. I'm not sure if you guys noticed, but I am drinking my sparkling wines out of wine glasses. Flutes will not allow me and would not allow me to swirl the wine and really get my nose in there to collect all of the aromas. So I really prefer, for tasting purposes at least, taste my sparkling wines out of regular wine glasses, the tulip-shaped ones, so that I can collect all of those aromas in my nose. But here, our Prosecco Rosé is a little bit different from the Prosecco Brut that we have. So first of all, it's no longer Brut, right? This one is the driest of the sparkling wines that they have. The first one that we tried, the Prosecco Brut, this one is extra dry. So your extra dry sparkling wines will always be a little bit sweeter than your Bruts. Bruts allow up to 12 grams of added sugars to them, and then your extra dries have about 17 or so, so it's a little bit higher. It's still pretty dry, but for those of you who are not a huge fan of bone dry sparkling wines, try the extra dry ones instead of Bruts. I think you would be pleasantly surprised. So let's take a look at this one here. I will swirl the glass like I did with the Brut. So here it's got a pretty intense rosé color to it, yet it's not overwhelming. You can also see a nice amount of foam, and if you were to closely look at the glass itself, you see the tiny baubles. Both of these sparkling wines, both the Brut and the Rosé, were made with the traditional method, which is not very likely for Proseccos. Cavas, champagnes, yes. Prosecco's not so much, but Gancia definitely makes their sparkling wines in a traditional method. And that actually has to do with a piece of history that I'm about to tell you, and that is Carlo Gancia, so the actual founder of Gancia Wines. Some people call him, and in Italy they call him the father of sparkling wines in Italy. Carlo Gancia learned the traditional method of making sparkling wines from France, where he lived for a while, which he brought back to Piedmont in Italy, and then implemented all of those rules in what is now known as Italian classic method. So the same rules that are followed today in sparkling winemaking in Italy. So he is truly the father of sparkling wine in Italy. His figure is very well known. His name is now on the bottles of Gancia wines, as you can tell. So he's a pretty big deal, Carlo Gancia. So going back to our rosé here, now that we looked at the wine, we looked at its color, let's go ahead and give it a nice sniff, a nice smell. So this one, I'm definitely catching more red fruit, red berries on this one versus the Prosecco Brut. So your complexity in this wine really comes from some of the Pinot Noir grapes that were added to the Glera grapes that actually constitute 100% of our Prosecco Brut and 85% of the Prosecco Rosé. So 85% Glera and then 15% of Pinot Noir, which really gives it that complexity not only on the nose but also on the taste, on the palate as well. So red berries is what I'm smelling here. Very pleasant, crisp smell as well. So extra dry, don't get fooled, it's still pretty dry. It's just a little bit sweeter and a little more complex because of those Pinot Noir grapes. So now that we've smelt it, let's go ahead and give it a taste. Yeah, 100%. So definitely medium body, medium finish, very soft aftertaste to it as well. And those red berries come through on the palate here as well. It's a very well-balanced wine. I think that 15% of Pinot Noir is just enough here to give this wine some color and some complexity. So last but not least, I'm going to try this wine with their suggested pairing for our virtual wine tasting, which is this Parmesan Crostini. So let me go ahead and sip a little bit more and then take a bite of this. I like it. The one thing that I really like about sparkling wines, and Proseccos in general, is that they go very well with breads. Anything crispy, like chips, crisps, anything of that sort. Think about maybe even pizza crust, if you will. So anything like that goes really well with Proseccos, and I love it for it because it's so simple. You don't have to go super fancy with your appetizers for Proseccos and for dry sparkling wines, I should say. I will say, however, that because of some complexity in this Prosecco Rosé, it will go really well with some risottos, with Mediterranean dishes perhaps. So anything just a little more complex than just salt and bread would pair really well with this one. Moving on to the next wine here, I am holding the Pinot Grigio. So Pinot Grigio here, you can tell I've had quite a bit yesterday. And what does that mean? That means that I enjoyed it. That means that I really liked it. So I'm going to have a little bit more now and then talk to you some more about the history of Gancia and some more about this Pinot Grigio as well. Swirling this glass in front of the camera for you, I hope that you at least a little bit can see the color that comes through. And here we can see some similarity to the first wine that I swirled in front of you, which was the Prosecco Brut. And you can see how this one has also straw yellow color and some greenish undertones to it. So as I am sniffing this wine, before I talk about how it smells, let's talk a little bit more about the history of Gancia. So here what I wanted to tell you is that really a surprising fact that came as a shocker to me, frankly. I've learned about the underground cathedrals of Gancia. So they call them the Gancia historical cellars. And what those are is they're actually the birthplace of those Italian sparkling wines back in 1850. And they're named underground cathedrals because of their architecture. So here on the slides that I'll try and put on the screen, you can see how beautiful they look inside. And they were definitely used with a purpose back then. So the soil that had those natural thermal insulating properties was perfect for maintaining sparkling wines at a time. But what's even more unique and interesting is that those cellars exist till today. So they are still active and they're still there. You can still take a tour of those. They still have some wines and sparkling wines stored in them, which I think is just absolutely fantastic and very interesting. I hope that one day I get to see them. So here, let's go ahead and smell this Pinot Grigio. Very, very good crisp smell as well. I love Pinot Grigios in general. Good wines. This one has smells of peaches coming through. It's a little bit mineral, which I really like. That means that it will be a bit of a medium body, drier taste eventually when I taste this wine. But what's really unique about this one is not just the fruity part of it. So think about it like apricots and peaches, especially white peaches, if you really want to be granular about discovering the smells, the aromas of this wine. But what I also smell here is a little bit of spice. So nutmeg, maybe a bit of coriander to it as well. Very, very pleasant aromas on the nose here. Let's go ahead and taste it. This is a beautiful wine, and that's why I had so much of it last night after the virtual wine tasting. I think I actually had the most of Pinot Grigio out of all of these wines yesterday. That's how much I enjoyed it. So definitely fruity flavors coming through. On the taste, on the palate now, you can taste some citrus as well. So a little bit of lemon zest to it, a little bit of orange, but then also those peaches and apricots, everything is coming through. The suggested pairing that Gancia sent over to all of us in a virtual wine tasting event was a pretzel. It was a salted pretzel, which quite frankly was my favorite snack out of all that they sent. These pretzels were pretty amazing. So let me take a bite. Apologize for the crunch. And now we're going to wash it off with this Pinot Grigio. It's so delicious. It washes this pretzel off with such elegance. It definitely elevates any snack, anything that you're eating with this wine that you accompany, whatever food you accompany this wine with. And seafood would probably be the best match here if you talk about something not snack-like, right, to pair with this food. So I would say probably seafood dishes would be great with this. Any heavier breads, heavier cheeses, so medium cheeses perhaps. And then the one thing that comes to mind that I would definitely like to try with this Pinot Grigio is burrata. I'm a huge fan of burrata. I really, really like burrata. And I, for some reason, feel like the elegance of this wine would complement the mild taste, the mild creamy taste of burrata really, really well. It is now time to bring the big guns in, and this is Gancia's Chianti. This is their best seller. This is actually Italy's bestseller. If you didn't know this, here you go. There's a piece of information for you. Chianti is the most exported wine from Italy by far. And with Gancia, this is not an exception. Not only that, this Chianti here is the only wine that has the DOCG certification instead of just DOC like the other wines do. That means that it definitely is a higher class wine when it comes to Italian wine certification. So let's go ahead and pour a little bit into the glass. And here immediately you can tell how rich and beautiful the color of this Chianti is. I'm going to put this away so that I can swirl the glass for you. Let's go ahead and do that. So here I know that even my viewfinder cannot hide this beautiful ruby color. Definitely can see how this color would probably turn into this darker orange, this garnet color when it ages as well. So you can definitely see the potential, the aging potential in this Chianti as well. But it's a beautiful ruby red color, very typical to Chiantis. So here what I wanted to point out is that Not only that, like I said, it's DOCG certified, it is definitely their best seller when it comes to the US, and it's the one that has the highest points to it. It's got 95 points. If you believe in points, let's put it that way. So I always like to mention points, but I'm not sure myself if I'm a big believer in points per se. But yeah, like I said, if you are, then here you go. This is your wine here. You can certainly find it in the US stores as well. One more thing that I really like about this Chianti is that it's super affordable. It costs, if I'm not mistaken, right under $15, $14 and change. So it's a win-win. You really can't find great wines for a very affordable price too often, and this one is for sure. So let's go ahead and smell this wine here. Sangiovese grapes. I just love them. I love them. They're beautiful. They smell great. They taste great. They pair so well with delicious comfort food, what I call comfort food, which is like Italian food, pizza and pastas. But on the smell here, on the nose, it immediately hits you with this floral bouquet. It's very jammy smelling, very floral. Definitely plums and just a ton of beautiful red berries that come through on the nose for me. I'm going to take a sip. The one thing that you don't always see in Chiantis is the softness, and this is why I really appreciate Chiantis that do have the softness, because you don't find it all the time. But this one has the softness to it that I like. I definitely feel those jams, the red berry jams to this wine as well. Again, just a beautiful Chianti for under $15, so big win-win for me. And I'm going to try it with what they suggested we pair it with, which is a beef jerky. It's a little unconventional for me, as I said, since I don't eat red meat. I actually don't even know when was the last time I even had beef jerky up until they sent it over. So I'm going to take a little bite just for the sake of this video. It's all for you, YouTube. It's all for you. I'm eating red meat in front of the camera. I'll share it. It tastes good, I gotta admit. All right. Letting this soak in. A lot of flavor in that beef jerky too. Do you remember how when I talked about, I think the Prosecco Rose, I said that it had a very mild, very soft aftertaste. Here on the aftertaste, you're just bombarded with fireworks of flavors, very robust, very lively aftertaste to this one. And I am now truly getting why they sent us some beef jerky to try this Chianti with, is because Sangiovese grapes are famous for being paired with anything tomato related, anything grilled, and with that said, the closest thing to a snack when it comes to grilled tomato, barbecue, anything of that sort would be the beef jerky. So I kind of get it now, and it makes perfect sense in my head now. So speaking of pairings, like I said, perfectly paired Sangiovese grapes. Anytime you think of anything that has Sangiovese grapes in them, tomato pizzas, red sauce pastas are absolutely amazing. That burrata, if it has tomatoes to it, made as a caprese salad, for instance, with burrata, go for it. Have some of the Chianti. But then anything barbecued, anything grilled would be great with Chiantis as well. So I truly enjoy Chiantis. These are absolutely great in my books. Guys, and this is it for today's video. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you Gancia. Thank you for Gancia Wines and everything that was sent to me. The virtual wine tasting event was absolutely amazing. I've learned so much history behind this brand. They definitely have the heritage behind them. They're so proudly Italian. They do have that winemaking expertise behind their backs. Over 170 years of winemaking, not too shabby. Not too shabby, but then again, Italians, they definitely know how to make wines, don't they? You guys, thank you again for joining. Until the next time, cheers.